I wouldn't normally talk about anything outside of R&B, rock, or pop from the 1970s and 1980s, but I think it's worth highlighting a few of the bands and artists who helped make EDM popular in the 1990s. While my usual focus is on earlier decades and different genres, the 90s produced some influential electronic acts whose music left a lasting impact on dance culture and popular music. That brings me to one of the most influential electronic acts of the decade, and arguably of all time, Daft Punk. Formed in Paris, France in 1993 by Thomas Bangalter and Guy-Manuel de Homem-Christo, the duo emerged during a period when electronic dance music was evolving from an underground club movement into a global cultural force. Drawing inspiration from house, disco, funk, rock, and techno, they developed a sound that felt both nostalgic and futuristic. Their distinctive robot personas, innovative production techniques, and commitment to the music helped redefine what an electronic act could be. Over the years, Daft Punk didn't just produce hit records, but also influenced countless artists across electronic music, pop, hip-hop, and even rock. Their albums pushed creative boundaries, their live performances became legendary, and their impact continues to be felt long after their final project together. So, to understand how electronic music reached the mainstream and why its influence is still so strong today, there's no better place to begin than with Daft Punk. Before they became the helmeted icons recognized around the world, Thomas Bangalter and Guy-Manuel de Homem-Christo were simply two young Parisians with a shared fascination for music. Bangalter was born on January 3, 1975, into a musical family, as his father, Daniel Vanguard, was a successful songwriter and producer. Growing up in Paris, he was exposed to a wide range of music from an early age, giving him an appreciation for melody, rhythm, and studio production. De Homem-Christo, born on February 8, 1974, also spent his childhood in Paris and developed an interest in music through his own eclectic tastes, which ranged from rock and heavy metal to electronic recordings. The two first met while attending the Lycée Carnot secondary school in Paris during the late 1980s. They quickly bonded over their shared enthusiasm for music, films, and creativity, spending much of their free time discussing records and experimenting with instruments. Initially drawn to rock music, they formed a short-lived guitar band called Darlin alongside their friend Laurent Bronkowitz. Although the group attracted little commercial success, a dismissive review describing their music as a daft punky thrash unexpectedly inspired the name they would later adopt. As house and techno music from Chicago and Detroit began finding an audience in Europe, Bangalter and De Homem-Christo became captivated by the possibilities of electronic production. They realized that synthesizers, drum machines, and samplers offered creative freedom that a traditional rock instrumentation could not, leading them to leave their guitar-driven beginnings behind and dedicate themselves to crafting the innovative electronic sound that would soon make Daft Punk one of the defining acts of the 1990s. By the late 1980s, electronic music was beginning to emerge from the underground and attract wider attention as house from Chicago, techno from Detroit, and acid house from the United Kingdom found growing audiences across Europe. For Bangalter and De Homem-Christo, these new sounds offered something that traditional rock bands simply couldn't: the freedom to create entire songs with a little more than a few machines, a lot of imagination, and enough cables to confuse an electrician. After the breakup of Darlin in 1992, the pair turned their full attention to electronic music and officially formed Daft Punk in Paris in 1993. They spent the next year refining their sound before releasing their debut single, The New Wave, in April 1994 on Soma Quality Recordings. Although the single attracted only modest attention, it introduced the duo to the underground dance scene and marked the beginning of a career that would soon extend past French clubs. A remix of The New Wave evolved into Alive, released later that year, and by 1995 they followed with Daft Punk, a gritty, infectious house track that became their first international breakthrough. It was becoming increasingly clear that these two friends from Paris weren't simply making club music, but also quietly laying the foundation for one of electronic music's most remarkable success stories, even if they had yet to trade their faces for robot helmets. The momentum continued with the release of their debut album, Homework, in January 1997. Far from being a polished pop record, Homework embraced the raw, energetic sound of the underground club scene while making it accessible to a much wider audience. The album produced several memorable singles, including Around the World, released in March 1997, whose endlessly repeated title somehow managed to become one of the catchiest hooks of the decade, a reminder that sometimes saying less really is saying more. Alongside Daft Punk, tracks such as Burnin', Revolution 909, and Fresh helped establish Daft Punk as one of the most innovative acts in electronic music. Their growing popularity was further fueled by imaginative music videos directed by filmmakers including Spike Jonze and Michael Gondry, proving that a great electronic track could tell a story without relying on the artists themselves appearing on screen. By the end of the decade, Daft Punk had become one of the biggest names in dance music, selling millions of records while touring extensively across Europe, North America, and Japan. Rather than chasing radio trends, they continued refining a sound that blended house, funk, disco, and techno into something uniquely their own, setting the stage for an even greater leap forward when they entered the studio to record their next album at the turn of the millennium. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video and want to support the channel in a bigger way, check out my Patreon. It's a great way to help me keep creating. You'll get some cool extras like behind the scenes stuff, early access, and more. Links in the description if you want to take a look. Thanks so much.
We really wanted to make music on our own, and this was a real possible way of doing music at home, completely free and with nobody's help. And we didn't want to ask anybody anything.
You may have already guessed by their unique headgear that the lads are a tad iconoclastic. The masks are always worn for media interviews because they say they don't want to be known for their looks.
We don't want to be famous for physically. So we just want them to spread our music and share the music we make, and our physical appearance is totally irrelevant.
Daft Punk entered the new millennium determined to evolve rather than simply repeat the success of Homework. The result was Discovery, released in March 2001, an album that embraced melody, disco, funk, and pop influences while retaining the electronic foundation that had defined their earlier work. The lead single, One More Time, released in November 2000, became an international sensation, turning dance floors into sing-alongs and making it remarkably difficult to attend a party without hearing it at least once. It was followed by Aerodynamic, Digital Love, and Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, each showcasing a different side of the duo's growing musical range. Around this time, Bangalter and Homem-Christo also fully embraced the robot personas that would become inseparable from their public image, allowing the helmets to become as famous as the music itself and probably much easier to recognize in an airport than their actual faces. Their collaboration with Japanese animator Leiji Matsumoto resulted in the animated film Interstellar 5555, the story of the secret star system, released in Japanese theaters in December 2003, which transformed the entirety of Discovery into a feature-length visual experience. By combining unforgettable music with striking visuals and an air of mystery, Daft Punk proved that they were far more than producers making dance tracks. They had become multimedia artists whose influence stretched well beyond the club scene.
Thomas and Guy-Man, welcome. This is a bit unusual. You have to tell me, why do you wear these black bags on your heads?
We're wearing these black bags because as Daft Punk we're not showing our faces in pictures or television.
What inspired you to go into that kind of music?
It was just an interesting creative environment originally that we met or found being teenagers in Paris, in France.
Guy-Man, I just want to make sure, are you getting enough air in there? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm okay.
But you're here to promote your movie, Electroma.
Yes.
What is that about?
This movie is our first feature film. It's an experimental film about two robots that are trying to become human. It's kind of a road movie. It's hard to speak about it also because it's a silent film. There is no dialogue.
But how did it come about that you went into filmmaking?
We've been wanting for a long time. Daft Punk has been like an opportunity for us, a creative opportunity or vector to work around different media and different art forms. We've been making an animation film in Japan for 4 years, a few years ago, and we've been making furniture also with the company Habitat in Europe, and we've always been interested in creating, and obviously film is probably the ultimate form of creation as it combines sound and images.
Rather than rushing to follow the overwhelming success of Discovery, Daft Punk took a different approach with their third studio album, Human After All, released in March 2005. Recorded in just 6 weeks, the album featured a deliberately stripped down and repetitive sound that initially divided critics and fans alike. Singles such as Robot Rock, Technologic, and Human After All demonstrated a heavier, more mechanical style that contrasted sharply with the polished grooves of their previous work. While the album received a mixed reception upon release, many listeners would later come to appreciate it, proving once again that first impressions can sometimes be as reliable as a weather forecast. The real turning point came with their Alive 2006-2007 tour, which began in November 2006 and reached its peak throughout 2007. Performing their now iconic illuminated pyramid stage, Daft Punk seamlessly blended songs from Homework, Discovery, and Human After All into a continuous live mix that transformed familiar tracks into something entirely new. The tour's success was immortalized with the live album Alive 2007, released in November 2007, featuring highlights such as the explosive Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger / Around the World mashup. The album went on to win the Grammy Award for Best Electronic / Dance Album in February 2009, cementing the tour as one of the most influential live electronic performances ever staged. By the close of the decade, Daft Punk had shown that they were just as innovative on stage as they were in the studio, and they had somehow managed to make two silent robots standing behind a pyramid one of the most captivating live acts in the world. Daft Punk's final decade together proved that they still had the ability to surprise both critics and audiences. In 2010, they composed the soundtrack for Disney's Tron Legacy, released in December, blending orchestral arrangements with their signature electronic sound to accompany the long-awaited science fiction sequel. Although the soundtrack marked a departure from their previous studio albums, it demonstrated their versatility as composers. 3 years later, they returned with what would become their final studio album, and my personal favorite, Random Access Memories, released in May 2013. Rather than following contemporary electronic trends, the duo looked back to the music that had inspired them, recording with live musicians and collaborating with artists including Pharrell Williams, Nile Rodgers, Giorgio Moroder, Julian Casablancas, and Paul Williams. The lead single, Get Lucky, released in April 2013, became one of the biggest songs of the decade, while Lose Yourself to Dance and Instant Crush also enjoyed widespread success. And don't forget, Touch, the best song in the entire album in my opinion. You guys should totally go listen to it. It has like so many change-ups in the song, and it's not a lot of singing, but the music just makes it all the better. The album received universal acclaim and won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year in January 2014, with Daft Punk also taking Home Record of the Year for Get Lucky and Best Pop Duo/Group Performance among several other awards. Following years of relative silence, the duo announced their split in February 2021 through an 8-minute epilogue video titled Epilogue, bringing an end to a partnership that had lasted nearly 3 decades. It was a characteristically understated farewell with no lengthy press conference, no dramatic final tour, just 2 robots walking into the desert, one spectacular explosion, and a reminder that some of music's most influential artists never needed to say very much at all. Thank you so much for watching. This video took a lot of time to make, so I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And please make sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a future upload. More quality videos like this one are coming soon. Once again, I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.